Hello and welcome. In this video, I have another top 10 favorites list for you. This time, we're going to be talking about my 10 favorite animated movies. So let's get started. Welcome once again. My name is Austin, and this channel is all about helping you to dig deeper and go further to better understand faith and film and everything that's in between. If that sounds exciting to you, make sure you click the subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any future content. I'm getting very close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on this channel. I think I need less than 20 and we will have reached that goal, which is extremely exciting. It's a dream I never really thought would happen, but it was excited at the possibility, and now with it within reach, I can't wait. Now, over the next few weeks, I want to be putting out some top 10 favorites lists of some movies from my collection that I just love, of various genres and types and stuff like that, because I don't have a ton of those out there, and they're ones that I want to get out. This one I thought would be a fun one in particular to do with the very closely upcoming birth of my son soon, so I'm super excited to introduce him to animated movies because that tends to be the ones kids gravitate to. So I know it's going to be a while before he can actually pay attention to those kinds of things, but it's still exciting for me nonetheless. So these are the 10 movies that I most can't wait to introduce to him that are animated. Starting things off with the one that I don't have in my collection, I'm going to go with Disney Pixar's Monsters, Inc. Monsters, Inc. is one I grew up watching a lot. My dad was not into animated movies that much, but he loved Monsters, Inc. So we watched that one all the time growing up. And a couple of years ago, in one of the flights that my wife and I were on when we were traveling somewhere, a kid a couple rows in front of us and across the aisle was watching Monsters, Inc. on one of the seat monitors there. And that was the moment that I realized this was one of my favorite movies, because I was enjoying it. I wasn't hearing a single word of it. And in that flight, I learned that I basically have Monsters, Inc. memorized. If I was watching it on mute on screen, I know nearly every word that's being said. So I love the Monsters, Inc. film. Disney Pixar, you won't see a ton of their movies on my list here. I do really enjoy them, but I also personally don't collect very many of them since they're readily available on Disney Plus. So I figure I'm paying for Disney Plus. Why spend the extra money to own a physical copy? So I'd rather put my money towards movies that aren't as easily streaming. So with that said, I love Monsters, Inc., and it definitely makes my list. It's probably one I'm going to get for my collection at some point, because my absolute favorite Disney movies I do own. So this list won't be in any particular order of ranking. It's just 10 of my favorite animated movies. So Monsters, Inc. definitely gets that first slot on the list. Next, we're going to do Treasure Planet. This is a crime that Disney has done a live action adaptation for it. It's just begging for it to be done, as well as another movie that I will be talking about in a little while on this list. So Treasure Planet is a fantastic animated movie. It's one that Disney kind of pretends isn't part of their filmography. They just kind of ignore it. But it tells a really cool, unique twist on the kind of Treasure Island story. There's adventure, there's comedy, there's really good story. There's a really interesting character arc for the main character, as well as kind of the pirates and adventures along the way. They do such a cool job adapting the whole pirates thing and turning it into space pirates. It's really fun. There's some really cool animation along the way. I think it was kind of when Disney first experimented a little bit with some 3D or CG animation as well, mixed in with the 2D, and I think it does a really good job. It's a really entertaining, really fun movie, and one that I love revisiting. Next, we have one of my 10 favorite movies of all time, and this is my favorite animated movie, I will tell you that. That is Disney's Tarzan. I adore this movie. This is another one that I basically have memorized. I still listen to the soundtrack very frequently and just think this movie is just the best. I have tons of nostalgia for it. It's got a really fun story. The music is incredibly catchy. Phil Collins does a great job with the soundtrack. We get a really cool story of just someone learning something that he never knew of his kind of origins and humanity, and kind of exploring that. And we get to learn along the way with Jane as she kind of gets to explore his world as well. And it's just a beautiful story of people learning each other's world, learning to love each other. It's really cool. And there's a really good villain in Clayton as well. He does a good job. And I just love watching this movie and can't wait to show this one to my son one day. Next, another very high up one for me, and that is The Prince of Egypt. This is a DreamWorks one, and this is another one that is just absolutely fantastic. It tells the great story from the Bible, the story of Moses, which is probably one of my favorite Bible stories, right behind Joseph, which there's also a DreamWorks animated movie for that I have. But I like Prince of Egypt better because there's really great music along with it. Something I didn't know until I was older, that Hans Zimmer does the music for this movie. So the instrumental stuff by Hans Zimmer is great. The songs as well are really good for this one. And it tells an epic story within the constraints of animation, and it does a beautiful job. They do take some creative liberties with the scriptures, which you kind of do that with any adaptation anyways, but it still, at its core, tells a great, fantastic story, and is a great way to kind of introduce this Bible story to children. And I mean, I enjoy it still as a grown adult too. So it's a fantastic introduction to this story and a great animated movie. Next, we have a dream come true kind of movie, and that is the Lego Movie. I was a huge Legos kid growing up, and when this movie came out, I still remember going to see it with a bunch of friends in the theaters, and we absolutely loved it. This movie does such a great job leaning into the creativity and the imagination that goes along with Legos. It's so cool to see how they animated it to make the bricks actually look like real Legos. As much as this is an animated movie, the bricks look like real Legos, and it's so cool. And they painstakingly created everything with actual real Lego bricks within the animation style, and it does a great job. It tells a kind of classic hero's journey for the main character, Emmett, and we just get some great kind of cameos along the way as different animated characters, with a really fun story and a really interesting twist towards the end when it kind of goes live action for a little while. I won't spoil any of that here if you haven't seen it, but this is a movie that's just so much fun. It really just makes me want to go back and play with all my Legos again every time I watch it, and I love this one. Next, we have one of my favorite stop-motion animated movies, and I was between this one and Fantastic Mr. Fox, but this one I just have a little bit more love for, I think. I love Kubo and the Two Strings here, so this kind of tells a really interesting Asian fantasy story, which if you know me, you know I'm really interested in Asian culture and lore and history, that kind of thing. So this kind of leans into that in a lot of cool ways with kind of the mythology of it. But then at the same time, it tells a really cool story of a boy trying to find his family. And it's really well done. You get great performances also from Charlize Theron and Matthew McConaughey as Beetle and Monkey, which is really cool. And you just get a fun adventure along the way. Absolutely breathtaking stop motion animation, which is just fantastic. And that kind of filmmaking just doesn't get the love it deserves of how painstaking it is to create that. So there's some awesome bonus features along this to get some of the behind the scenes work, but this tells a really cool story, has really beautiful music as well, and is, as I said, fantastically shot and animated. Another nostalgia pick for me, we have The Iron Giant. This is one that I just have a ton of nostalgia for, and this is another one of my favorite animated ones from my childhood. You just get a beautiful story of a boy just kind of looking for a friend and someone who's lonely, kind of quiet and awkward. It's really cool that this kind of takes place in kind of the Cold War times, so you get kind of that historical aspect of it. It has kind of some Amblin vibes of being in that kind of time period, and it just tells a beautiful story of a boy and a giant robot from space, and their kind of shenanigans and adventures, while at the same time, the town kind of trying to discover what's going on and the mystery of it all, and then the military hunting them down. So it's just really fun. You get some fun stuff along the way and kind of some humor, but then at the same time, it gets really serious, which just you don't see as often in animated movies. So that really thin line of enjoying the fun of the adventure while also being serious stakes along the way. So this is one that would have been really cool had we gotten a sequel, because they kind of set it up for it. But at the same time, I'm really happy with what we have here, and it doesn't really need anything new. Next, we have another Pixar film, and that's going to be The Incredibles. This is, along with Monsters, Inc., another one of my dad's favorite animated movies. So we watched this one an absolute ton growing up, and just this is probably my favorite Pixar movie as well. I just love the animation style of it. It's so cool to see Pixar working with humans, and I think this was one of the first times they did that in one of their films, and it tells just an incredibly grounded story about a family with everyday problems, everyday issues they deal with, siblings fight, marriage fight, all that kind of stuff. Like, that stuff happens in real life, but at the same time, they're all superheroes. So you get these cool things with their powers, you get fun shenanigans along the way of the kids messing around with their powers, all that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, similar to Iron Giant, it threads that line so well of the fun, whimsical nature of it all, but at the same time, there's very serious issues and things that need to be addressed in the movie. So it just does a great job kind of blending all of that together. It's a fantastic family film, and I just love the dynamic of each of the characters together. It's got a good villain as well, and it's a testament to how great this is that they even followed up with a sequel so many years later, which was good, just not as great as the original. So I absolutely love The Incredibles, and it definitely hits my list for my favorite animated movies. Second to last, I'll show the first How to Train Your Dragon movie. Now, really, I probably could have gone with any of the How to Train Your Dragon movies, but I figured I'd start at the beginning since that's the first one and that's the beginning. But I love this trilogy. This is definitely one of the best animated trilogies. It's so cool to see such a great consistency across each and every one of the films in this series. And if you've not checked this one out before, it's really great. DreamWorks sometimes has hits, sometimes has misses. This is definitely one of their biggest hits when it comes to their animated movies. So it does an excellent job telling a really good story of Hiccup, boy who just wants to have his father notice him and impress him and be worthy of it all. And there's this great story with dragons along the way that I love, the fantastical kind of Viking and dragon fantasy elements along the way. So again, it does a really good job. A lot of, I guess, a big recurring theme you'll notice along with a lot of my favorite animated movies is they do a great job threading that line of fun and adventure, as well as the serious kind of more realistic issues and real life that happens along the way. So this trilogy as a whole does it fantastically, and especially even just in this first film. So I love these movies. Finally, the next biggest mistake Disney has made in not doing a live action adaptation, we have Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Now, this is the double feature of The Lost Empire and Milo's Return. This is the only way to get these on Blu-ray, but The Lost Empire is definitely the stronger of the two films. It's got a really cool performance from Matthew Broderick in it, which is pretty neat. And then the animation is just great along the way in it. And then the Atlantean technology and animation and culture is just so well done and explored within this film. And last time I watched it, it was one of the first times I had seen it since I was a kid, and I was taken aback by the fact that the first, I think, 5 or 10 minutes of the movie is spoken in the Atlantean language. So it's like, it's not very often that you get a kid's animated movie that you have to read subtitles for part of it. I mean, if it's a foreign film, that makes sense, but the fact that they integrated the first 5 minutes of the movie to be something you had to read subtitles for to understand is really cool. Just really mature decision to make for the movie. So I love this one. It's got a great story. This one, probably even more so than Treasure Planet, is just begging for a live action adaptation. So this one is just a great movie, great adventure along the way with some great visuals, some really cool Atlantean technology and stuff. I still remember the Happy Meal toys from this one growing up that we got to get with McDonald's meals. So I love this one, and it definitely caps off in a great way the list of my favorite animated movies. So that's my list of my favorite animated films. I would love to hear some of your picks in the comments down below, because even for me, it was really hard to put this list together because there's some excellent animated movies out there, and there's many more honorable mentions I could have given. So make sure you share your favorite animated movies in the comments down below. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.